In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Lord, we thank you for giving us the opportunity to come together. We ask you for your guidance and wisdom throughout this session, especially with Abey George, who is today's speaker. And we ask you to bless all the youth members participating in today's session. We ask for your love, guidance, and protection in everything we do. We ask all this in the glorious name of our Lord Jesus Christ, and by seeking the intercession of Mother Mary and all the saints. Amen. Good evening, everyone. As the vicar of St.Stephens IOC, I would like to extend all the good wishes for the today's session. Thank you, Abey George, for participating in this session. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Acha. So I'm just going to give a little bit of introduction before I pass on to our guest speaker. So my name is Shibu and I'm representing St.Stephens IOC in Birmingham. I would like to welcome everyone to the first Central Zone virtual meet. Today it is hosted by Birmingham and it is an interactive session on the topic of Holy Marriage and Orthodox Christian perspective. So before I introduce our guest speaker, I would like to explain the format of this meeting. So it is an interactive session, but there will be a time for a Q&A at the end. So if you do have any questions for Achin, please could you try and save that towards the end so we could keep to the allocated time as much as possible. Also, if anyone does have any more topics to do in the future, please do let your Central Zone reps and your youth secretaries know, and we will discuss and plan for any future events. So next, I would like to introduce our guest speaker, Reverend Father Abey George. So Father is the vicar of St. Thomas Orthodox Church, Long Island, New York. He is serving also as the Principal Secretary of His Grace Zachariah Mar Nicolavos, the Metropolitan of the Diocese of Northeast America. He works as a hospital chaplain for the United States Department of Veteran Affairs Hospital in Brooklyn, New York. Currently, he is completing a Doctor of Ministry degree at St. Vladimir's Orthodox Theological Seminary in New York. So we are thrilled and excited to have you here, Achin, and eagerly anticipate learning from your valuable insights and knowledge. So without further ado, we would like to invite our guest speaker to start the session.
I hope you can all hear me. Yes? Great. Wonderful. Those who have joined, if you could turn on your videos, that'd be great. I quite honestly could say that after COVID, I am not a big fan of Zoom meetings. I would rather go back to interactive, person-to-person talks. So it would do me a great favor if you would turn on your videos. If you're able to, that is. If you're driving, please don't. As we begin this evening, Shibu, if you could help me understand, those who have joined, are they all from the same parish or from different parish?
There are some from different parishes. There are some from different parishes. It's the Central Zone area churches.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Wonderful. And thank you for inviting me. Thank you, Achin, as well, and all the organizers for having me this evening. So the topic at hand, I guess before that, I just want to let you guys all know that we'll go for about 45 minutes or so. I will speak. I'll be asking questions in between, so feel free to unmute and answer as well. And then after that, we'll have a Q&A towards the end, about 15 minutes or so, whatever time that's left. So to begin with, the topic, Orthodox marriage, holy marriage. Just to give myself in context, I've been serving as a priest for the past 8 years. And within the 8 years of my pastoral ministry, I've begun to realize that different people have different understanding of what marriage entails. There's a cultural understanding, there's a religious understanding, there is all sorts of different schools of thought when it comes to marriage. So I think it's important to have this discussion at an early age of our lives so that we can discern what is the right path for me, whether it be marriage or whether it be celibacy or whatever path that God designed for us in that regard, or God desires for us, I should say. So one of the things that I've come to realize, as I said, that different people have different understanding of what marriage is. I've done some premarital counseling work as well before couples get married in my parish. I meet with them at least 4 or 5 times, and we have a conversation about marriage, and we talk about what marriage entails. So one of the first questions that I ask every couple that comes to me is an obvious question, and it may be appearing to be as a simple question, but I would like for you to answer this question. They're coming to me to get married, forward with to me to get married, and I ask the question, why do you want to get married? So I ask the question, why do you want to get married? And I'm very specific about that question. I'd say, no, not why you want to get married to this person who you're with right now, but why do you want to get married, period. So for those who are joined this evening, what are some reasons that you may have or you've heard why people want to get married?
To start a family.
Sure. Let's just start a family. Sure. Okay. What else?
To complete a sacrament.
To complete a sacrament? Trying to understand if I heard you correct. Okay. To complete a sacrament. Okay. What else?
I think what that person meant is it's like recognized as a sacrament within our faith, which is something that everybody generally goes through, and it has a lot of spiritual and religious meaning behind it for us. Okay,
I see it. In other words, to have an Orthodox Christian marriage, that is, to have the sacrament itself. Yeah. Okay, all right. To undergo that sacrament. Okay. Okay. What else?
I think getting married to a person in terms of the religious aspect is committing yourself as a couple before God.
Okay, committing yourself as a couple before God. Okay, that's great. But my question also entails why as a person, as an individual, from a personal perspective, why you choose to get married. Yes, the sacrament is involved. You commit yourself to God as a couple, but from a personal perspective, why do you choose to get married?
To have somebody as a support, to share your happiness, whatever you're going through. Just somebody to hit off your own whatever thoughts that you have with somebody, to make sure that you're rational in your thinking, and just somebody who understands you from your own perspective.
Okay, so somebody who understands you, supports you, a sense of companionship to share your thoughts, your ideas. Okay, great. What else? By the way, please feel free to turn on your videos. I would not want to spend the next 45 minutes speaking to blank screens. Thank you. Anyone else? Why do you personally choose to get married, or why do people decide to get married? My gosh, maybe because I'm from the United States, I usually get so much more answers. I mean, from financial stability to, companionship to, share your life with someone so that you can be happy for the rest of your life. I don't know, I'm just throwing stuff out there. I guess nobody wants financial stability. Why else would people want to get married? To have children, family, why else? Okay, well, we have these reasons. Okay, we have these reasons, and you begin to, desire a family life. You meet somebody, and then you begin to realize, okay, this is a person that I feel that I'm compatible with, where I could actually start a family with, and I feel that I can connect with this person. I'm not sure how many of you are here who are in the age of dating, or perhaps you have already met someone, or you're thinking about meeting someone. Wherever phase that you are in your life, we live. I think we live in a society where it's now accepted, where you meet the person, you date the person for some time, and then you get married. Now, and hoping that this person will be providing you with whatever that you expect in marriage. Yes, isn't that the case? You are convinced at the day of your marriage, you are convinced that the person who you're marrying is gonna meet your expectations, and the person is gonna make you happy. And lo and behold, there's so many divorces happening. A lot of couples are unhappy. There are all the expectations that you thought the other person would meet is not really met. In fact, for example, a few years ago, I had a couple who dated for about 4 or 5 years and got married. And a few years into their marriage, they came to me and said, Achan, I wake up every day asking myself who this person is. I don't know who this person is. This person is a complete stranger. Everything that I thought that I knew, it's not this person. Same thing the other way around as well, whether it be husband or wife. They feel that after a few years into the marriage, they feel that this is not the person that they dated. So what do you think happened? On the day of their marriage, clearly they're convinced this is the person I want to get married to, right? And they feel that this person is compatible to my life. I can share my life with this person. But what happens after marriage? Why do you think couples begin to, feel like they're both strangers in the relationship?
Is it because they fell out of love?
Because they fell out of love? Yes, that is the possibility. That is a possibility, yes, but that is not the only possibility. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Perhaps now they're married, they no longer see the need to carry on trying as hard as they did, maybe. So they act differently, which might be like less attention, which makes them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good point. They don't have to try, make more effort anymore, right? After marriage, right? And then they fall away from each other, essentially. Okay. Why else? Why do couples feel after marriage they're both strangers to each other?
Pressure from other people, like parents and parents-in-law.
So the influence from parents and parents-in-law can hinder the relationship. Yes, that's a factor as well. Yes.
Loss of communication between the wife and husband.
Okay, sure, absolutely. Not enough communication. Absolutely, yes. Mm-hmm. What else? So one of the questions that I ask, just along with the question of why do you want to get married, when they come to me, they want to get married. I ask, oh, wonderful! This is it's a great thing that you both want to get married. So give me a percentage. How well do you know each other? Right? You've been dating for 2-3 years. How? Give me a percentage. How well do you know each other? And of course, they both say, oh, I know him 98%. And the guy says, yeah, maybe not that much, maybe about 90%, or 85% and such. And okay, so we've been together with 2-3 years, and you guys know over 90%. Wonderful. Well, this is strictly from a psychological perspective. A person who have dated for 4 or 5 years, okay, 4 or 5 years, not 2, 3, 4 or 5 years, I'm not saying living together. That's a different story. 4 or 5 years have dated and have interacted with each other. Do you know the percentage, average percentage of how much the person knows each other? Can anybody tell me what the percentage is? Give me a number between 0 to 100 that you feel the percentage is after dating for a person 4 or 5 years. Okay, somebody in the chat plays 40 to 50%. Okay, all right. Anyone else? 60%. I got another response in the chat, 60%. Anyone else? Feel free to unmute. %. Okay. 50 to 60, 60%. Okay. All right. So from a strictly from a psychological perspective, when 2 people are dating for 4 or 5 years, you'll be lucky if you know the other person about 4%. Maybe. If you're really psychoanalytical and you really are able to read people's personalities at a deeper level, a psychoanalytical level, maybe that number may go up to 6 or 7. Maybe. So you may be asking, Achan, what are you talking about? Like, I spend hours talking to this guy. I spend hours talking to her. You know, I go to sleep at night talking to this person. So it's like I'm interacting constantly with this person, but you're saying I only know 4 or 5%? Well, in order to understand that statistic, how well do you know yourself? What's a percentage of how well you know yourself? If you could give a percentage. If anyone here says they know more than 20% of their lives, you must be a saint. You must be God. Okay? The reason why is because there are a lot of subconscious things that we don't know about ourselves, that we do, that we think, that we say. If we ourselves don't know 20% of ourselves, we only know ourselves 20%, how much do you think you know a stranger who you've interacted only 4 or 5 years? You don't know much. In other words, even if you've dated somebody for 4 or 5 years, you are marrying a stranger, a complete stranger. Now, this is where, you know how an iceberg works, right? Yes? You know, the iceberg, you see the ice on top. When you're traveling, you see the ice on top. But the most of the ice, where is it? It's underneath the water, isn't it? Guess what? People are like that. So what you see when you're dating, you make sure, oh, I smell nice. I wear the best clothes. I'm not going to curse. I'm going to say very nice things about the other person. Yes? Fancy dinners or sweet talk, all that, all above the water. But the true person is where? Underneath the water, right? And guess what? After marriage, the whole purpose of dating is so that you get married. Yes? You fulfilled your purpose for dating. And that ends there. After marriage, it's like, what I believe Amit said, after that, I don't work anymore. I just show my true self now. I'm just who I am, right? And they begin to realize, oh my goodness, the other, 95% shows up after marriage. And they're in shock. Wait a minute. This is not what you said before marriage. This is not how you were in marriage. This is not how you interacted with me or talked to me before marriage. Why are you changing? Well, it's not that they change. It's that they reveal themselves through me. And this happens both with male and female. Okay? So if that's the case, if you're marrying a stranger, it doesn't matter. By the way, this is another thing. We think, okay, as long as I'm compatible with the person who I'm dating, like, I like the same foods as the other person, the same color, the same type of personality. Oh, this should be a healthy marriage. No. Compatibility does not mean that you're going to have a healthy marriage. So what exactly goes back to the first question, why do we need to get married then? Why would I want to be with a stranger who are so different from me? Now, that's where we have to remember that marriage, committing to one person for the rest of your life, is not a cultural practice. It is a religious practice. It is a spiritual practice. Committing to a person for the rest of your life is actually a Christian practice. Other religions have it different ways. But it's only in Christianity where you're committed to one person for the rest of your life. And guess what? And the purpose is what? Is to live a holy life. Is to become like Christ. The more you grow with the person who you're committed to, the more you begin to become like Christ. So guess what? Remember the 95% that you don't see in the other person? And how that begins to show? The more you become patient, the more you become unconditionally loving to the person, you're more willing to accept the other 95% you don't see. By the way, from what I'm saying so far, is this making sense? Yes? Thumbs up? Yes? Okay. So, to live a holy life is the purpose, the fundamental purpose of marriage, because if there's any other reasons, you'll be disappointed. Okay, I want to start a family. Hey, there's so many couples who struggle to have children. What are you going to do? You're going to call off the marriage because you cannot have children, right? Financial stability. You both lose their job. There's no financial stability. Does the marriage end there? Right? You give any other companionship. This is another thing. Many people get married for companionship. And why is that couples are so lonely? They have a big family, but they feel so lonely. They don't feel companionship for marriage. So, not only that, we can replace that with something else. You don't have to get married for companionship. You know, I could find other, secular organizations I can connect with for companionship. So, every expectation that you have about marriage, if you come with that saying, this is the reason why I want to get married, you're going to be disappointed. But if you commit yourself saying that marriage is a holy venture, marriage is going to if I stick with marriage with the notion of it's going to help me to become more like Christ, because that's going to help me become more patient, more loving, more forgiving, more compassionate, then that's going to keep you going in the marriage. By the way, this is not just one-sided. Both couples have to agree to this, right? So the only compatibility that's actually needed in marriage is the agreement that the purpose of marriage is to live a holy life, is to become more like Christ. Every other expectation, you're going to be disappointed. So, So I mentioned that the purpose of marriage is to live a holy life. By the way, celibacy is also, what is the purpose of celibacy? Is to live a holy life. Our entire lives, what is the purpose? Is to live a holy life, a life of virtue, a life that allows us to learn about unconditional love. By the way, I'm sure you know this, husband and wife relationship. How is that compared in the scriptures, in the Bible? So does anyone know? Hint, hint, St. Paul. And if you've ever attended a Orthodox wedding service, you know the answer to this. St. Paul compares marriage to what? I'm just checking the chat if anybody's answering on the chat.
It's like a king and queen sort of thing.
So that reference is there, kings and queens of the kingdom, yes. But he compares the husband. Good. Bride is the church. Yes, I see it in the chat. Correct. The bride is the church. If the church is the bride, who's the bridegroom? Jesus Christ. Yes? So Christ is the bridegroom, the church is the bride. What did the bridegroom do for the bride? To express his love for the church, what did he do? Oh, come on. I'm sure you guys know the answer to this. He died on the cross. He gave his life up for his spouse, right? So that's what you're really signing up for. You're signing up for a life where you're unconditionally loving the other person to the point where even if it leads to my death, I'm willing to offer that. So when it comes to our model for love, is not the way that the world loves. See, how does the world love? The world loves in a very, I would say, very superficial way. Oh, if he loved me, he would give me flowers for Valentine's Day. If he loved me, he will say, I love you. If he loves me, he would do X, Y, and Z like what that other couple is doing. That's not love. That sounds like a business transaction. You know, I give you flowers on Valentine's Day. Give me what I want, right? It's like, you know, it's very transactional. That's not love, right? If you're loving someone in the hopes of that the other person will love you back, that's superficial love. That's very selfish love. You're doing it for yourself. But when you love someone without expecting anything back, that's true love. Look what Jesus did. When Jesus Christ died on the cross for his spouse, the bride, did Jesus say, okay, now I'm waiting, what am I going to get back? He said, doesn't matter what you do, I still choose to love you. That's love. And that's the foundation of Orthodox Christian marriage. Orthodox Christian marriage, the foundation is we learn what love is from what Christ did for the church. Okay? So that has to be transposed into every single marriage. Now, when that happens, when a husband and wife relationship is in a way in which, as Christ loved the church, you're really bringing heaven on earth. You're bringing down heaven into your own family. Right? So in spite of what you offer to me, I still choose to love you. That unconditional love. So that's the fundamental foundation we have to have in talking about Orthodox marriage. Being a life that leads us to leading a holy life. Yes? That makes sense so far? I only know by your thumbs up. Yes. Okay. I see a few thumbs up. Wonderful. Now, let me ask you this. Which is the first marriage that you saw in your life? The first marriage that you saw in your life. I'm not talking about, you know, I'm not talking about that marriage sort of ceremony. I'm talking about the first marriage that you saw. It's actually an obvious question. It's not a trick question. The first marriage that you saw.
Parents?
Excellent. Your own parents. Your parents. We grew up seeing our own parents' marriage, right? And, you know, God bless you if you have wonderful parents. God bless you if your parents are leading a life of holiness, where there's a lot of love, unconditional love, forgiveness, compassion. But there are a lot of broken families. There are a lot of broken marriages where I know a lot of youth would say, Achan, I don't want to get married because I don't want to turn out to be like my parents. They have a horrible marriage. And you know what? I'm scared that I'm going to have a marriage just like my parents. So you know what? I'm not going to get married. That's very reactionary. I don't think a person should make a decision like that, looking at their own parents' marriage. Another thing that I often hear is like, oh, I will never be like my mom in marriage, or I never be like my dad. Well, guess what? Whether you know it or not, whether you like it or not, remember that iceberg, 90% that people don't see? Your parents are in your subconscious mind. You have your parents' personality. You have your parents' thinking. You have your parents' way of being, whether you know it or not. Now, that's going to come out in marriage. So the very things that you said that you won't be like in marriage, it's going to come out in your marriage. And that's going to cause conflict as well. So one thing that you want to begin to realize is that, you know, do not make your parents' marriage as a model for your own marriage. Okay? What worked for them is not going to work for you. You may be able to take good things out of their marriage. There may be a lot of good things you can take. But the person who you're marrying, you got to make sure that it works for your own marriage. So that's something you got to discern whether it is the right thing to do. And, you know, when couples come to me, when they say that they're ready to date or when they're ready to get married, well, you know, if you're in high school is basically 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade, around that age, you should not be dating. You know, in my opinion, that's not a good time to date. It's because your brains have not formed, your bodies have not formed properly. You should be able to have a proper foundation, number one, in your spiritual life. You should have a good father confessor you're confessing to. You should be going to church every Sunday. You should be receiving the sacraments. You should be leading a disciplined life. So you should invest more of your time when you're in high school, even in the beginning of college as well, you know, having a disciplined life that will help you to have a good married life. You're in college, you're in post-college. That's when the questions come. Oh, when are you getting married? Oh, you just graduated from college. All right, next step, you're gonna get married. So all this pressure comes from our families, from our loved ones. Wonderful. You want to find someone. You want to date. But remember, don't date to have fun. A lot of people end up, I feel, at least here in the United States, I don't know how it is in the UK, Europe area, you know, we're in college. When you're not in a condition to date, when you know that, for the sake of marriage, that is, you should only date for the sake of marriage. Don't date just to have fun or just to have a companionship, you know, during your college years, because you're going to set yourself up for a big failure. Emotional pain, spiritual pain. There are many people who I know who dated few people, and after a while they're like, I don't want to get married. I don't want to date anymore because I've been hurt and burnt, you know, quite a few times. So they don't want to go through that process again. So when you date, you should make sure that you are emotionally stable, you're physically, spiritually stable as well, before you begin to date someone. Now, I'm not saying to wait until you're 40 to do that. You should start when you're young. You should start, I'm not talking about dating, I'm talking about, you know, disciplining yourself, being prepared, you know, learning about marriage and learning about what are the things I should look into when it comes to an individual, when it comes to marrying. So, so another important thing that I ask when especially college students, when they say that, oh, I'm dating so and so, the first question that I ask is, how's your relationship with your parents? And that's an important question, because if you fail to have a good relationship with your parents, with your dad, with your mom, you expect yourself to have a good relationship with a stranger? You don't even get along with people who you live with. How are you supposed to have a good relationship with somebody who you don't know? So I challenge them. I challenge people who say that they're ready to get married when they're in their early 20s. Well, some of them have a good relationship with their parents. Wonderful. If not, it's important that you reconcile your relationship with your family, because that will help you to be a good husband and to be a good wife. Okay? So, see, all this, you begin to realize that all this is preparing you to lead a holy life, right? Because we have a lot of baggage that we carry, our own sins, our own personal struggles, our own personal evil thoughts and desires that we have. Marriage is a pathway that God has allowed and blessed that allows us to get rid of these things in our life so that we can live a holy life. Because guess what? Your partner is going to be like a mirror. The other person will let you know your flaws. The other person will let you know your weaknesses. the other person will let you know the other 95% that you're not aware of your own life. So the more you begin to be aware of it, you should have the humility to accept that and say, yeah, you know, I have issues with my anger. You know, I have issues with, I have a lot of insecurities. I'm constantly anxious about my future. All that's going to come out in your marriage, and working on that is the very purpose of marriage, because you become more Christ-like. You begin to depend on God. You don't depend on yourselves anymore. You begin to realize, I need outside help. I need help from someone else in order for this marriage to continue. And that's where the church comes. That's where the sacraments come. That's where the priest, your spiritual guide, comes. See, always remember this. There is no ceremony in the church that says a ceremony for celibacy. See, I'm a celibate. I'm not married. I'm a celibate priest. I'm an unmarried priest. There was no ceremony for me, a special ceremony that proclaimed to the world that I'm a celibate. Because it's actually easier to live a celibate life. It takes more grace, more of the presence of God to fulfill a healthy marriage. So the church understands it and says, wonderful, 2 people want to get married? Wow, this is a very difficult task. This is going to really test both of you in various ways. So you know what? Don't do this by yourself. God's going to be in your midst. So when a marriage happens, an Orthodox marriage happens, it's not 2 people coming together. It's 3 people coming together. It's God and the husband and the wife coming together as one in a married relationship, in an Orthodox marriage. So that sacrament, you come to the church with 2 people, but you leave the church with how many people? 3 people, right? So that's the whole approach that we have, our understanding of what marriage is, which is it's an adventure that allows us to live a holy life. It allows us to realize a lot about ourselves. We learn so much about ourselves in marriage, so much of our weaknesses, our strengths, and working on that on a daily basis every day is what marriage is about. And that's why it's tough. It's not for everybody. Why is that people decide to divorce? Why is that people decide to separate? Because it's difficult to work on yourself. You begin to realize that I need a lot of patience. I need to learn to forgive. I need to have Christ-like qualities in marriage in order for marriages to sustain. And your spouse helps you to achieve that. So that's what I want to share. I have other things that I want to share, but I'm just conscious of time. I do want to make sure that we have enough time to ask questions, because I feel that's where the rubber meets the road. I feel I could say a lot of things about different perspectives about marriage, but I would rather hear from both of you. I mean, all of you. I said both because I only have 2 screens, on here. That's why. But I will open up for questions. Anything that you would like to ask from what I've said so far, or anything related to marriage.
I think like our youth group have already got a list of questions. If that's okay, Achin, to go through a list.
Sure.
I will send it in the chat so it's visible to everyone. I will send that now. There's a couple of questions, so I'll send that. Okay.
Oh wow, that's a lot of questions.
Yeah, it's a couple of questions. I think some is related to like, does the church allow this or allow that? So I think if you can go through that, and if anyone does have any other questions in the meantime, you can put it in the chat as well, and we can go through it. Okay.
So there's a questions regarding outside of Orthodox. Does Orthodox accept marriages between an Orthodox Christian and non-Orthodox Christians as Marthama, Jakaba, Protestant, who have been baptized? Okay, so let me answer that by basically saying, what is the purpose of marriage once again? Can somebody remind me? Somebody remind me what we spoke about. What is the purpose of marriage once again?
To be like Christ and love unconditionally.
Excellent. To become more like Christ and love unconditionally. Very good. You cannot do that without Christ. There's no way we can live an unconditional loving life without Jesus Christ himself. And as far as what we know from what we are taught, from scriptures, from the church, the fullness of Jesus Christ, the fullness of who he is, the fullness of the teachings of the apostles, the fullness of the sacraments, the fullness of who Jesus is and believes about Christianity from the early centuries on, without change, about how to live a holy life. Where is it available? It's available in the Orthodox Church, right? It's available in the Orthodox Church. The guidance that the priests give, the guidance in terms of understanding how scriptures are interpreted, all that is in the Orthodox Church. So that's why in the Orthodox Church, there's only marriages between two people who are Orthodox. So if a person who's Catholic or Protestant want to get married to somebody who's Orthodox, the question is, wait, why are you getting married? Even before they convert to Orthodoxy, the first question that I ask is, why do you want to get married? Because why do Catholic people get married? I don't know. Why do Protestants and CSI get married? I don't know. But I know one thing for sure, in the Orthodox Church, you're getting married so that you can become like Christ, to live a holy life. So if you don't want to do that, you want to ask yourself, wait, why are you becoming Orthodox? Right? So we would accept people who would say, I want to join the Orthodox Church and I want to marry somebody who's Orthodox. Wonderful. That's wonderful, because you want to live a holy life. A holy life that allows us to experience the fullness of Jesus Christ. Wonderful. If not, then, so does the Orthodox Church accept marriages from a different denomination? So in other words, no, I want to be Mar Thoma, but I still want to marry somebody who's Orthodox. No, because the two purposes are different. Why you fulfill marriage in Mar Thoma or CSI, I don't know why they get married. But I know one thing for sure, the Orthodox Church, it's to live a holy life. So if you would like to join in that venture, you should marry somebody who is Orthodox. So let's see. Why does the Orthodox Church not conduct engagement ceremonies on church premises? Engagements are not liturgical services. Engagements are basically family, cultural things that you're basically letting the family know a wedding is going to take place. So that was done basically at homes. It was never done in churches. You could rent the parish hall if you want and have it there, but it's not a liturgical service per se. So it's more of a cultural thing, that's why. So it's not necessary. I mean, I've had so many weddings where we didn't even have an engagement. So having an engagement is not necessary at all. It's just a matter of letting people know that a wedding is going to take place. That's all. Does the Orthodox Church permit marriages when one person is non-Christian? Well, again, it goes back to that same notion. Why would the non-Christian want to get married? Right? Is it to lead a holy life? If they don't believe leading a holy life, then why are you getting married? I mean, see, there are so many people, even in the United States, who have nothing to do with the church. But they want to have an Orthodox wedding because it sounds really nice. They love the songs. They love the hymns. And I always give them the option, hey, you don't have to have an Orthodox wedding. Go have a court wedding. Go have a court wedding. But if you're going to have an Orthodox wedding, that means you're signing up to live a holy life in Christ. I better see you at church every Sunday. So if you're not signing up to lead an Orthodox Christian life, the question is, why do you want an Orthodox wedding? Right? So the lifestyle and leading a holy life and having the Orthodox wedding all goes hand in hand. Okay? Are there any restrictions on a day when Orthodox weddings can take place? Yes. I mean, I'm sure you could ask your Achan and give you the restrictions, what they are. Usually the allowed days are Sundays and Mondays. Those are the allowed days that we have. In the United States, it's actually a little different because of the context that we live here. Saturdays are allowed. It's temporarily allowed, I should say. So Sundays and Mondays are the dates to get married. How does the Orthodox Church view divorce, remarriage after previous marriage within the church? Good question. Divorce, how do we see it? So we have to always remember, as I mentioned before, marriage is to live a holy life. But unfortunately, after marriage, people don't work on their holiness. People become very arrogant, very prideful. There's a lot of ego at play. And what happens is that as I mentioned earlier, they're both strangers, right, in marriage. And this is supposed to happen in marriage. The gap between them has to decrease, yes? But unfortunately, after marriage, this happens. The distance between them increases, and more and more and more. And more that happens, the more distance that there is in the relationship, the more they don't want to continue in their marriage anymore. And it is unfortunate that it comes to the attention of the priest only after the damage is done. We could do something about the marriage right when you know this is happening. So whoever's listening to this, if you know you're in the slippery slope, that there is distance happening between you and your spouse, go talk to someone. Go see an Orthodox counselor. Go see an Orthodox priest and find help. Don't wait until the damage is done and say, we want a divorce. There's so many instances where, even in my own pastoral ministry, where couples have come and said, actually, we've decided we don't want to be together and we want a divorce. And I said, okay, how'd you come to this conclusion? Last week we had a fight. Okay, so last week you had a fight and you already want a divorce? Let's talk about what happened. And the more we process, the more we heal the relationship, they begin to realize after a while, they're like, actually, I can't even imagine we actually came to that conclusion. We want to divorce each other. That was very silly, right? So what does the church say? Sometimes the damage is so bad, the church would say, you know what? It's best for your own salvation that you're not together. The church doesn't say, give out, oh, here you go. You want divorce? Oh, here you go, here you go, here you go. No. The church doesn't say that. Not only that, it's never the couple's decision to get a divorce. In the Orthodox Church, it should be in consultation with your spiritual father. It should be in consultation with your priest. It should be a conversation outside of your own selves to say, wait a minute, from third person perspective, I feel this can be healed. I think reconciliation can happen if you put the effort to it. And marriages can actually be saved. Don't come and say, I want a divorce, and that's it. No, what are you going to do to work on the marriage? At least exhaust all your options before you actually make that choice. That's an important thing. Have you exhausted all your options? That starts with, by the way, the church. The last thing that we often reach out is what? The church and the priests. So the church doesn't allow divorce. The church says if it gets to the point where both couples are not in a condition to reconcile and they're both stubborn and both, the damage has done to the point where they cannot work on their salvation anymore, the church would say, okay, fine, we will allow this. Just in that instance. So it's a case-by-case situation. It's not a cookie-cutter answer. If somebody having marriage problems, they get a divorce. That's it. No, the church doesn't give a cookie-cutter answer. We look into every single couple and we say, okay, let's see if this can be fixed. It's just like going to your doctor and saying, oh my God, I have an infection on my hand. Can you amputate my hand? The doctor would say, wait, why did you decide to amputate your hand? Let me look at the infection first. Let me see if I can heal it. Oh, I guess I don't have to amputate my hand anymore because the infection is now gone. So don't decide to amputate before you consulted a doctor in your marriage. So that's how and remarriage is allowed. Yes. So after divorce, if you decide that you want to get married, yes, even that decision should be in consultation with your spiritual guide, with your spiritual father. So it's important that when you remarry, always the caveat is make sure that you don't bring baggage from the first relationship. Make sure that you're healed, you're reconciled from your first marriage, and you're ready to get married for the second time around. If you're not ready, then you have to make sure that you spend time discerning whether that's what you want to do. Okay. Good. Why are you not able to live with someone before marriage, even though you have the intention of marriage? Very good. It goes back to that stranger analogy. So basically living together. Even if you live together with someone with the intention of not, let's just say that even if you're intending to get married, when you're living with someone, why is that going to be detrimental for the marriage? Have you ever thought of that? You may think that it's a good thing. Oh, I get to spend time with the person and I really get to see their true selves in marriage. Before marriage. And then, we work towards marriage. Why is it detrimental to the marriage? I would say it's not only detrimental to marriage, it's also detrimental to the relationship itself as well. Because as long as you're not married, you always have the option to walk away. You always have the option to walk away. So if you know that you have the option to walk away, are you really going to show your true selves? Don't deceive yourself thinking that you are. You're not. You're not going to show your true selves, even if with the intention of marriage. So the best thing is to be able to reveal yourself truly who you are after committing. Because once you're committed, you're basically saying, okay, we're both going to see the other 95% of who we are, but we're still going to be committed to each other. I know you're not going to agree with a lot of things. You're going to be disagreeing. You're not going to like my personality, but in spite of all that, we're going to be still together because we've committed to one another. That's what's going to be really working for the relationship. Because as long as you know you're going to walk away, you're not going to really be genuine in the relationship. So that's why it's so detrimental for the relationship and for the marriage when you begin to live together even before marriage. Let's see. Premarital requirements for counseling and all that, that's different for different priests in different dioceses. When I do premarital counseling, I meet with a couple at least 5-6 times, an hour and a half session each. And the last session is basically confession. So I always tell the couples, don't tell me a month before your wedding saying that I want to get married. So in my parish, I would always say, give me at least a year. If you found someone you want to get married, give me at least a year, because I have to sit down with both of you. I have to talk to you guys and see whether you both have signing up for the same thing. And, I'll provide you with counseling and provide you with resources. And I have my own curriculum that I follow. In India, I don't know, different dioceses have different requirements. But basically, you got to find out from your own church, from your own priest, from your own bishop, what the requirements are for before marriage. Why is there only one clergy member who wears the full priesthood clothing during Orthodox weddings? It's just like, in baptisms, right? In a baptism, the main celebrant would be fully vested and the other ushers will just wear hymeneia. It's just a matter of discipline, that's all it is. There's nothing wrong with everybody vesting, by the way. There's nothing wrong with that. Anybody who is attending the service can be fully vested. Doesn't have to be just one. I'm just looking at the time as well. How are we doing with time?
I think we can do a couple more questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so if our spouse is mentally, physically abusive, manipulative, or narcissist, how do we deal with it? Is it permissible by the Holy Bible to divorce such people? If we divorce such people, is it adultery in the sight of God? if we divorce. Okay. So physically abusive, manipulative, narcissist, all that. Good. So all that is coming out of the relationship. Remember, the 95% that people don't see comes out after marriage. Yes. What do you do? That's not a ground for divorce. So seeing the 95% that you do not agree with is not ground for divorce. The question is, how are you working with the couple, with the other person, to deal with such situations? Are you seeing a marriage counselor? Are you talking to a priest? Are you talking to somebody who can help you deal with what you're dealing with in your marriage? Have you exhausted all your options? So once you've exhausted all your options, then the priest will look into the relationship and decide accordingly. You don't decide for yourself. Because guess what? If you want to find somebody who is not a narcissist in this world, good luck. Because there's narcissism, different degrees of narcissism in each and every one of us, right? It's a question of how are you going to be dealing with that in your marriage, and how are you seeking help for it?
I'd like to now invite Amit Shibu, the OCYM Secretary, to do a vote of thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, Shibu. So firstly, I would like to thank everybody for taking part and coming together this evening for this virtual meetup. I'd like to express particular gratitude to Reverend Father Abey George for preparing for us an enjoyable and fantastic session for all the members of the youth and everybody that has managed to join us here today. I'd also like to thank Bobby Etchen for attending us with his presence and with leading the opening prayer. And I would also particularly like to thank Shibu Chetan for assembling and organizing this virtual event for the first event for the Central Zone. And I'd like to agree that it was a great event which helped us to reflect on the topic of marriage within our church, as well as the different aspects and different considerations that we all must take into account when we look towards doing that in the far future for some of us and the near future for some the remainder of us. So I would once again like to thank Achin for leading the first successful OCYM session for our Central Zone. And then I would like to thank everybody who attended and contributed to this interactive session. It was great to see that everybody had questions as well as responding to different discussion points, and we hope to see you all in the future for a similar virtual meetup regarding other topics relevant to our faith and our way of thinking. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone understand the Orthodox perspective of marriage. Thank you, Acha. It's a good session. Thank you, Acha. One more time. Okay. May the mercy of the great God and our Savior Jesus Christ be with you all, my brothers and sisters, forever. Amen.
Thank you all for having me, and God bless you all. Keeping you all in my prayers. Be well.
Thank you, Acha. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.